India is the second most populous country in the world, with over 1.277 billion people, more than a sixth of the world's population. Already containing 17.5% of the world's population, India is projected to be the world's most populous country by 2022, surpassing China, its population reaching 1.6 billion by 2050. Its population growth rate is 1.2%, ranking 94th in the world in 2013. The Indian population had reached the billion mark by 1998. India has more than 50% of its population below the age of 25 and more than 65% below the age of 35. It is expected that, in 2020, the average age of an Indian will be 29 years, compared to 37 for China and 48 for Japan, and, by 2030, India's dependency ratio should be just over 0.4. India has more than 2,000 ethnic groups, and every major religion is represented, as are 4 major families of languages as well as 2 language isolates. Further complexity is lent by the great variation that occurs across this population on social parameters such as income and education. Only the continent of Africa exceeds the linguistic, genetic, and cultural diversity of the nation of India. History. Ancient India in 300 BC may have had a population in the range 100 to 140 million. It has been estimated that the population was about 100 million in 1600 and remained nearly static until the late 19th century. It reached 255 million according to the first census taken in 1881. Studies of India's population since 1881 have focused on such topics as total population, birth and death rates, growth rates, geographic distribution, literacy, the rural and urban divide, cities of a million, and the 3 cities with populations over 8 million, Delhi, Greater Mumbai, and Kolkata. Mortality rates fell in the period 1920 to 45, primarily due to biological immunization. Other factors included rising incomes, better living conditions, improved nutrition, a safer and cleaner environment, and better official health policies and medical care. Salient features. India occupies 2.4% of the world's land area but supports over 17.5% of the world's population. At the 2001 census, 72.2% of the population lived in about 638,000 villages and the remaining 27.8% lived in more than 5,100 towns and over 380 urban agglomerations. India's population has exceeded that of the entire continent of Africa by 200 million people. However, because Africa's population growth is nearly double that of India, it is expected to surpass both China and India by 2025. Comparative Demographics list of states and union territories by demographic states and union territories religious demographics. The table below summarizes India's demographics according to religion at the 2001 census in percent. The data is unadjusted. The 1981 census was not conducted in Assam and the 1991 census was not conducted in Jammu and Kashmir. 1 including Baha'is, Jews, and Parsis. Tribal animists are included after 1926. Population trends for major religious groups in India. Neonatal and the infant demographics. The table below represents the infant mortality rate trends in India by gender, in the last 15 years. In the urban areas of India, average male infant mortality rates are slightly higher than the female infant mortality rates. Some activists believe India's 2011 census shows a serious decline in the number of girls under the age of 7. Activists fear 8 million female fetuses may have been aborted between 2001 and 2011. These claims are controversial. Scientists who study human sex ratios and demographic trends suggest that birth-sex ratio between 1.08 to 1.12 can be because of natural factors. The 2011 census birth-sex ratio in India, of 917 girls to 1,000 boys, is similar to 870 to 930 girls to 1,000 boys birth-sex ratios observed in Japanese, Chinese, Cuban, Filipino and Hawaiian ethnic groups in the United States between 1940 to 2005. They are also similar to birth-sex ratios below 900 girls to 1,000 boys observed in mothers of different age groups and gestation periods in the United States. Population within the age group of 0 to 6, population above the age of 7, literacy rate, linguistic demographics. 41.03% of the Indians speak Hindi while the rest speak Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Kannada, Malayalam, Marathi, Odia, Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu and a variety of other languages. The table immediately below excludes Maumaram, Paromata and Pural subdivisions of Senapati district of Manipur state due to cancellation of census results. Largest cities. Vital statistics. UN estimates. Source: United Nations, Department of Economic and Social Affairs website. Greater than world population prospects. The 2010 revision. Sample registration system 1. The numbers of births and deaths were calculated from the birth and death rates and the average population. Sources: United Nations Statistics Division website. Greater than demographic yearbooks. Census of India website. Greater than vital statistics. Greater than sample registration system. Structure of the population. Structure of the population. Fertility rate from the Demographic Health Survey. Crude birth rate and total fertility rate. TFR equals total wanted fertility rate. CBR equals crude birth rate. Regional vital statistics. The below table gives the vital statistics for the year 2010, according to the Registrar Gen. India. CIA World Factbook. Demographic statistics. The following demographic statistics are from the CIA World Factbook, unless otherwise indicated. Total population 1,166,079,217, 1,210 million. Rural population 72.2%, male, 381,668,992, female, 360,948,755. Age structure 0 to 14 years. 30.8%, male, 188,208,196, female, 171,356,024. 15 to 64 years. 64.3%, male, 386,432,921, female, 364,215,759. 65 plus years. 4.9%, male, 27,258,259, female, 30,031,289. Median age 25.1 years. Population growth rate 1.548%. Literacy rate 74%. 81.4% of population below poverty line. 22%. Unemployment rate 7.8%. Net migration rate -0.05. Migrant 1,000 population. Sex ratio at birth 1.12 male, female under 10 years, 1.14 male, female 15 to 24 years, 1.09 male, female 24 to 64 years, 1.06 male, female 65 years and over, 0.908 male, female. Total population 1.08 male, female. Life expectancy at birth. Total population 65.8 years. Total fertility rate 2.72 children born, woman. Although more up-to-date statistics indicate that India's TFR was 2.6 in 2008, the TFR according to Religion in 2001 was Hindus 2.4, Muslims 2.8, Sikhs 2.1, Christians 2.1, Buddhists 2.1, Jains 1.4, Animists and others 2.99, Tribals 3.16. Scheduled castes 2.89, religions Hindu 80.5%, Muslim 13.4%, Christian 2.3%, Sikh 1.8%, Buddhists 0.8%, Jains 0.4%, others 0.7%. Unspecified 0.1%. Scheduled castes and tribes. Scheduled castes 16.6%, scheduled tribes 8.6%. Languages. See Languages of India and List of Indian languages by total speakers. There are 216 languages with more than 10,000 native speakers in India. The largest of these is Hindi with some 337 million, and the second largest is Bengali. 22 languages are recognized as official languages. In India, there are 1,652 languages and dialects in total. Population projections. India is projected to overtake China as the world's most populous nation by 2030. India's population growth has raised concerns that it would lead to widespread unemployment and political instability. Note that these projections make assumptions about future fertility and death rates which may not turn out to be correct in the event. Fertility rates also vary from region to region, with some higher than the national average and some lower. Source: 2020. 1,326,093,000. 2030. 1,460,743,000. 2040. 1,571,715,000. 2050. 1,656,554,000. 2020 estimate in millions. Source: ethnic groups. The National Census of India does not recognize racial or ethnic groups within India, but recognizes many of the tribal groups as scheduled castes and tribes. According to a 2009 study published by Rai Al., the modern Indian population is composed of two genetically divergent and heterogeneous populations which mixed in ancient times, known as ancestral North Indians and ancestral South Indians. ASI corresponds to the Dravidian-speaking population of southern India, whereas ANI corresponds to the Indo-Aryan-speaking population of northern India. For a list of ethnic groups in the Republic of India, see ethnic groups of the Indian subcontinent or the tree diagram above. Genetics. Y chromosome DNA. Y chromosome DNA. Y DNA represents the male lineage. The Indian Y chromosome pool may be summarized as follows, where haplogroups are M420, H, R2, L and NOP comprise generally more than 80% of the total chromosomes. H tilde 30%, AL1A tilde 20%, R2 to 15%, L tilde 10%, NOP tilde 10%. Other haplogroups 15%. Mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA mtDNA represents the female lineage. The Indian mitochondrial DNA is primarily made up of haplogroup M. Haplogroup M tilde 60%. Haplogroup UK tilde 15%. Haplogroup N tilde 25%. Autosomal DNA. Numerous genomic studies have been conducted in the last 15 years to seek insights into India's demographic and cultural diversity. These studies paint a complex and conflicting picture. In a 2003 study, Basu, Majumdar al. have concluded on the basis of results obtained from mtDNA, Y chromosome and autosomal markers that there is an underlying unity of female lineages in India, indicating that the initial number of female settlers may have been small. The tribal and the caste populations are highly differentiated. The Austroasiatic tribals are the earliest settlers in India, providing support to one anthropological hypothesis while refuting some others. A major wave of humans entered India through the northeast. The Tibeto-Burman tribals share considerable genetic commonalities with the Austroasiatic tribals, supporting the hypothesis that they may have shared a common habitat in southern China. But the two groups of tribals can be differentiated on the basis of Y chromosomal haplotypes. The Dravidian-speaking populations were possibly widespread throughout India but are regulated to South India now. Formation of populations by fission that resulted in founder and drift effects have left their imprints on the genetic structures of contemporary populations. The upper castes show closer genetic affinities with Central Asian populations, although those of southern India are more distant than those of northern India. Historical gene flow into India has contributed to a considerable obliteration of genetic histories of contemporary populations, so that there is at present no clear congruence of genetic and geographical or socio-cultural affinities. In a later 2010 review article, Majumdar affirms some of these conclusions, introduces and revises some other. The ongoing studies, concludes Majumdar, suggest India has served as the major early corridor for geographical dispersal of modern humans from out of Africa. The archaeological and genetic traces of the earliest settlers in India has not provided any conclusive evidence. The tribal populations of India are older than the non-tribal populations. The autosomal differentiation and genetic diversity within India's caste populations at 0.04 is significantly lower than 0.14 for continental populations and 0.09 for 31 world population set studied by Watkins et al., suggesting that while tribal populations were differentiated, the differentiation effects within India's caste population was less than previously thought. Majumdar also concludes that recent studies suggest India has been a major contributor to the gene pool of Southeast Asia. Another study covering a large sample of Indian populations allowed Watkins et al. To examine 8 Indian caste groups and 4 endogamous South Indian tribal populations. The Indian castes data show low between-group differences, while the tribal Indian groups show relatively high between-group differentiation. This suggests that people between Indian castes were not reproductively isolated, while Indian tribal populations experienced reproductive isolation and drift. Furthermore, the genetic fixation index data shows historical genetic differentiation and segregation between Indian caste population is much smaller than those found in East Asia, Africa and other continental populations, while being similar to the genetic differentiation and segregation observed in European populations. In 2006, Sahu et al. Reported their analysis of genomic data on 936 Y chromosomes representing 32 tribal and 45 caste groups from different regions of India. These scientists find that the haplogroup frequency distribution across the country, between different caste groups, was found to be predominantly driven by geographical, rather than cultural determinants. They conclude there is clear evidence for both large-scale immigration into ancient India of Sino-Tibetan speakers and language change of former Austroasiatic speakers. In the northeast Indian region, the genome studies through 2010 have been on relatively small population sets. Many are from just one southeastern state of Andhra Pradesh. Any conclusions on demographic history of India must therefore be interpreted with caution. A larger national genome study with demographic growth and sex ratio balances may offer further insights on the extent of genetic differentiation and segregation in India over the millenniums.